The defense in the Holly Bobo murder trial expected to wrap up its case today after just 3 days of testimony. By the way, without calling their client Zach Adams to the stand. Holly Bobo, of course, disappeared back in 2011. Her body was not found until 3 years later. Police believe she was raped before she was killed. Defense attorney Sara Azari, sort of a daily fixture as we cover this story. And you know, day 3. And I was talking to you before we came on. I was asking, because I don't know, and you know this world so very well, the defense never called their client. Is that just sort of common, or are you surprised they didn't do that in this case?
Not at all. I expected it. It's very common because, look,
what's the risk?
Defendants have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent.
Okay.
And not only that, but a jury cannot use that silence against them to infer guilt.
Oh, okay.
And in this case, when you have a defendant who has made some very incriminating statements,
you want to keep them quiet.
You want to keep them as far away from the jury as possible in terms of their testimony. And the only time we really put up our clients to testify is if that is the only way we can get the evidence in. If we can somehow have another witness come in and testify.
There's other ways to present it.
Evidence,
gotcha.
Yes.
During the case, it was very interesting. The defense talked a lot about this suspect in this early on, a person by the name of Terry Britt. Is this an effort to sort of distract the jury, to put doubt in the jury's mind?
Absolutely. I think the defense is, look, the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And what the defense has to do is they don't need to put up an affirmative defense. They can just cast doubt. So long as it's reasonable doubt, they could get to a not guilty verdict. And what they're doing is they're saying, look, this guy was not just a suspect. They turned his life upside down. They really believed he was a convicted rapist and had, you know,
he lived not far from her.
Not far from there. And then they also excluded Zach Adams as a suspect because the pings to the cell phones didn't match up in terms of the location initially. And so, I mean, the shoddy investigation, I think, is a topic for another day. But,
and it's interesting. You've mentioned that twice now. Like, you think that's going to come back to bite them in this
I don't
case?
I think this officer was removed from the case in about 2013 or 14 after they caught on to all the sort of omissions and failures on his part. But nonetheless, I mean, it wasn't like, oh, we think it might be Terry Britt. I mean, they really believed that he was the guy, and he confessed. That's what's interesting is that, you know, usually you hear the defense attorney saying the confession of my client is coerced. Here you have the prosecutor saying our investigator coerced this guy into confessing and throwing their investigator under the bus, essentially.
Is there danger by the defense putting forward this other theory, this other person, again? Is there danger in that backfiring, in that it'll confuse the jury?
Well, I mean, the jury, it's doubt, but the question is it reasonable doubt, and is it enough reasonable doubt that it would overcome all of this other evidence? You know, people coming in and talking about admissions that Zach Adams made about, you know, raping and killing Holly Bobo. And I mean, this issue is not going to stand alone. It's going to be weighed by the jury in deliberations against all the other evidence they've heard.
All right, closing arguments are up next. We'll see what happens. This is the 9th day of the trial. Sarah, always a delight to see you. Thanks for analyzing all that for us.